This is the, that's a little loud, huh? This is the meeting of the Hillsborough County Charter Review Board. Welcome. It's Tuesday, June the 10th. I'm going to call the meeting to order. I'd like to begin with an invocation, and we have an excellent gentleman who's volunteered to be our chaplain. So would you please lead us in some prayerful thoughts?
Gladly. Father in heaven, we thank you once again that we can come into your presence and just pause and reflect on all the things that you've done for us. Everything that we have, our resources, our lives, our very breath comes from you as a gift from you. And your word says every good and perfect gift comes from the Father of lights, with whom there's no variation or shadow due to change. And one of those things you gift us is time. And we want to be good stewards of the time and the resources you've given us. So we pray that you will give us wisdom as we meet tonight, that we will hear from you, and that we will be able to discuss the things that you have before us. We thank you, Lord, for this time together, for each and every person here and their families. Pray your blessings on them. We pray all of this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As a protocol for everyone to make sure that when you're not using your microphone that you turn it off so we don't get any feedback. There was a suggestion was made last month that we do introductions. So I guess maybe I'm gonna make Kim the first. But let me suggest that in order for the camera to pivot around and everybody to have their moment of 15 seconds of fame or what, if you could just sort of drag it out, just a second or two or three. So first introduction, please. Yeah.
Do I wait to see myself?
I don't know if you will. Well, let's see. Does it come around?
Hi, my name is Kim Droege, and I have been appointed by Commissioner Bowles to the Charter Review Board.
Stand by, Karen. Let's see the camera comes to you. I definitely want people to get to know you. Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Karen Jarosh, and I was appointed by Commissioner Josh Wostel.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Deborah Joden, and I've been appointed to the board by Commissioner Donna Cepeda.
Well,
So I'm Julianne Holt, and I was appointed by the Honorable Commissioner Harry Cohen.
thank you. My name is Art Wood, and I was appointed by the amazing Christine Miller. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, you got it.
Hi, I'm Rick Coons, and I was appointed by Josh Wostel.
I'm Beth Latham, and I was appointed by Chris Bowles, Commissioner Chris Bowles.
I'm Sid Shah, and I'm appointed by Honorable Commissioner Ken Hagan.
Here I am. Jim Taylor, appointed by the also Honorable Commissioner Ken Hagan.
Thank you. And we have three folks absent tonight and a couple that were going to come to us on a virtual. So maybe we'll do introductions one more time next month just to get 100% out there. So thank you very much.
I'm happy to introduce myself if you want me to. I'm virtual.
Oh, would you
Sue
please?
Carlton.
I don't see, I can see you, but I don't know if anybody else can. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm Sue Carlton, appointed by Commissioner Harry Cohen. Just want
Thank
to let
you.
you know I was here.
Appreciate you. Thank you. Thanks for being here with us. Yeah. All right, we're open for public comment. As of 5:30, we hadn't received any. Has any public comment come in subsequent? Okay, that'll close public comment. Next item of business is the approval of the minutes. This is from our May 13th meeting. They have been circulated. Are there any corrections, or can I look for a motion to approve? Motion to approve. We have a motion to approve from Ms. Droege. Who was this?
Second by Julianne Holt.
Second, Julianne Holt. Any discussion? Okay, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Yeah. We worked really hard to try to have a full agenda, so I'm going to take a moment to explain why we don't. Chris Bowles was supposed to be on the program to talk about the repositioning of the fire chief position within the hierarchy of the county. And he wanted someone to accompany him as a speaker who's not available tonight. So we had to take that item off the agenda. We'll talk about it next month. Also, of course, we have the big one of Section 201 and 901, which was Chris Ann Hall's project. And she unfortunately called in saying she's not going to make it tonight. So we'll have to postpone that item, so, yeah, as well. So, what I decided to do is maybe we can start some preliminary discussions. So I've included that on the agenda at the end once we get through the items that are on here. So that brings us to the first item of actual business here. Is item 5 on our agenda. Is Section 805 Financial Impact Statement. And this was an item that was brought forward by Karen Jarosh. So I know we've received some material. So you have the floor. Tell us what you'd like to tell us. Yeah.
Okay, I believe we took a vote last meeting to move forward with holding a public hearing. Was that the case, or did we defer that to today's meeting? It was today's? Okay.
I'm not sure what you mean. We will hold public hearings if we have 10 people in favor of a charter amendment.
Okay, I thought there was like a vote to move forward with it, and then a final where we had to put 2/3 vote, like a simple majority.
Late in last month's meeting, and I did view it, Mr. Taylor asked a question about how we're going to handle things. And the way I'm going to handle it, I had mentioned this earlier, was that rather than tie up staff time, public time, and of course, board members' time, I wanted to get a sense if the item is going to pass.
Okay.
So we won't engage in public hearings unless there's 10 positive votes in favor of a charter amendment.
Okay.
In which case, the attorney will draft language. There will be language then to show to the public for 2 hearings and a vote, yeah.
Okay, no, that's fine. I was just wondering where we were at. I mean, I think I probably spoke too much on it last time. But I think what we were going to hear was, I think there was some question about whether it did have to be on the ballot, or if it could be on the ballot or not. And I believe when Ms. Hall was going to be meeting with the county attorney that they might discuss that. I'm perfectly fine not having it on the ballot, but I was curious if there was any answer on that new information.
Mary Helen?
Yes, Mary Helen Ferris with the County Attorney's Office. There is a court case and an Attorney General's opinion that says the financial impact statement required in the election code only applies to state constitutional amendments, and that they're preempted. So there's nothing we can do to have the language, the financial impact statement, on the ballot. Okay. That being said, we have in the backup where you go to Hillsborough County Government, you click on hillsboroughcounty.org, click on Government, click on Budget, and it pulls up the Financial Impact Committee. It tells you, it gives you the notices of the meetings, who the committee consisted of, and the minutes of that committee. So that's readily available. I'm not saying that if the board wants us to make it longer or to include more things, that's perfectly fine. I just need direction on to, as to if this goes forward. I'm happy to meet with Mr. Roach and start putting an outline or some stuff on paper that you can discuss at the following meeting.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's fine. I'm okay to leave it off the ballot. I just wanted a place on the county website where the costs could be viewed. And in a, we mentioned last month about specifying it to look kind of like a nutrition label on the back of a can of beans, where it'd be very simple to understand what is the term of the loan, or excuse me, of the tax, what is the first year revenue projected, and then what is the term, meaning the duration of it, and then to give both a first year and then an anticipated revenue generated over the term of the loan, and then, but also adding in what is the impact to an average household. I mean, it would be great if we could pin it to each person, but I think it's a very easy calculation that could be done. We know the number of households in the county. We know how much is generated. Yes, there might be a percent paid by tourists, but it could be a pretty good guesstimate as to what that financial impact would be. So I do think what I originally proposed would have to be slightly amended, because I had on there that the financial impact statement should be located on the ballot immediately following the ballot question, and I'm okay with striking that. I also had the words to 100 words, thinking that if it was on the ballot, you definitely want to keep it succinct. I'm open to amending that. So I pretty much talked about it last time. It's basically the same. I think the county backup did show where on the county website this is located, and you have to go to hillsboroughcounty.com, and you have to know to go to the county budget, and then you have to look around to find the financial impact statement. When voters are getting ready to vote and want information, I prefer having it as a clickable tab on the homepage. I believe that there is some language in the state statute that requires the audit that has to be done for certain ballot questions to be very accessible on that website as well. So I did have in the ballot language, or suggested or proposed, the very last sentence, it talked about having it on the Hillsborough County website in a dedicated ballot measures section accessible via a prominent homepage link. Again, I'm okay if that is a hardship, or if the sense of the committee here is, that's maybe a little bit too much to be putting on. But I think the overall sense that I'm trying to come up with is we have a financial impact statement on our charter that's outdated. We just heard that we cannot put this on the ballot, and that's what the current charter language says. So I'm just suggesting we say, hey, let's rejigger it and put it on the county website, so that if people want to find that information, it is numbers generated by the county budget officer. And I'm also okay, I know the current language says the budget officer in conjunction with a budget committee. I'm okay with that as well. We can throw that back in. But that's essentially the sense of what I was trying to get through with my suggested proposal.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna go to Ms. Carlton. Go ahead, please, Ms. Holt.
Just my recall is that the sense of everybody was that everybody liked the idea of updating the financial impact statement. That kind of was the sense that we all had. And so if you're saying that you would meet with, our attorney and come up with the format, I think that maybe perhaps we can consider passing a resolution ultimately once we have that work product, and say to the Board of County Commission and to the county administrator, this is a recommendation coming from the Charter Review Board that we'd like for you to consider. So that's a way
correct.
that we could handle that.
There is things less than a full-blown charter amendment where we can pass resolutions saying this is how we'd like a certain practice to be done. Yeah. Let me recognize Ms. Carlton.
Yeah, sure.
Speak up, please.
Hi, I will do. I just wanted to say, I think my concern is, if we're going to do a full financial impact statement and it's going to be a balanced one, wouldn't we have to say we're talking about transportation tax? Okay, the financial impact is also, here's the number of gallons of gasoline that a family will save over the period of this tax. It seems like if it's going to be a balanced sort of informative thing, you'd have to do both, and that sounds like it's going to get really cumbersome. I'm all for all this information being available, I like Ms. Holt's idea better too, but I also think, voters can add, and the information is there. So that's just my observation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Art?
Beth?
I like that suggestion, Sue, because we can say how much it's going to cost, but I think on the other side of it, if we're going to go to that extreme, we're going to say, hey, these are the things you're going to get, and this is where they are. So they don't just see this big, oh my gosh, dollar amount and not know the real value that something like that can provide. I think that's what you were saying, Sue.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Roche.
Yeah, so the ballot language itself for the actual item that's being voted on does specify what the tax is for. The problem that I saw in the past was there was no source to go to find out what is the expected revenue to be generated over the term. The current charter language said it would be year 1 and year 2, but over a 30-year term, that's a little different than a 5-year or 6-year duration tax. So just trying to have a source and thinking that the county would be that unbiased source done, the way it had been done before was fine. They had minutes of the meeting. I'm totally okay with that. But the other benefit of the way I had worded this language is that it would also be available before the public hearing, before the commissioners voted to put it on the ballot, to put this particular measure. There really was no place to get this information. And I'll give you the transportation tax, in the particular one in 2018, it was a $9 billion tax, and that's what you heard everywhere. And that came from the Metropolitan Planning Organization. They do a 20-year look. Well, this tax was a 30-year tax, and when you extend it out, it was not a $9 billion, it was actually a $16 billion at the time tax. So, I know to a lot of people that may not be a lot, but when they see a 30-year tax being, said to be a $9 billion and it really was a $16 billion, I just think that those are the kinds of things that the voters deserve to be able to find out in a source. The legislature has deemed it fit to have an audit of the agencies receiving the money, and they specified it needs to be on the Hillsborough County website. They specified, amount of time before the vote. So I just thought this would be something that the county could do. It was in a prescribed format of the certain items all that has to be laid out, and it would just be an easy way for voters to get credible information.
But you're not saying you have a problem with saying what the benefits are. You're just reiterating why you want to do it on the financial side, right?
Right.
Certainly, if I go to the store, I'm like, oh, that's $100. Is it worth only $50? And I want to know that part. So I think that's every bit as relevant.
And I would agree, but I
Okay.
think that's where the subjectivity gets entered into it.
Well,
And
Yeah.
I think there was a lawsuit over the fact that certain things, certain ballot language was put out there to tout certain benefits that may not have been the case.
But we're not going to the ballot. We're going to do something that the county's creating on a website.
Right, and I believe that's
So it can
always-
be, this is the list of projects, this is the area. It doesn't have to be that subjective. We're just balancing what we're providing. If we're going to make a resolution and a recommendation to the county, that we keep it balanced. This is what you're going to spend over whatever period of time, and this is how much it's going to cost. This is what you're going to get for that. I think that's just fair.
Ms. Droege?
Well, just because it's not going to be on the ballot doesn't mean that it shouldn't be thorough. And may I finish?
Benefit.
May I finish, please?
Yeah, just a second.
Thank you.
though.
Let me-
You're miscasting what I said. I wanted to show both sides of the story, not just one. I'm sorry, you go ahead.
Well, actually, I haven't said anything yet, other than just because it's not on the
Back to this,
ballot.
yes.
So if you'd let me finish. Doesn't mean that it shouldn't be thorough, and I agree that it's always good to give a balanced, fair picture. Unfortunately, I agree with Ms. Jarosh that sometimes the benefits described are subjective. They are hard to calculate in advance. They change over time. and therefore, it's hard to pin them down. Let me finish.
Okay.
Before someone, a voter, goes to this tab on the website and takes a look at it. So I agree with you, balance is good, and I think that, I also agree that usually the benefits are described on the ballot language. Whether or not they're quantifiable, and whether or not they have been quantified correctly is very much in question.
I'm talking about project list and getting away from subjectivity. I think it's a little bit hard even on the money side to do those projections. You alluded to that as well. I just think if we're going to do one side, we need to do the other. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Did you want to say something, Mr. Taylor?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, you have the floor.
No, I appreciate the work and the spirit behind this, and I love all the work that went into it. You know, I came in prepared, on both items. And again, for me, it's what is that threshold where I'm comfortable voting for any item to go on the ballot? And I think it was Ms. Latham or someone else that said last week, that, the real estate of the ballot is precious. And I agree with that, And so then you look at what is the mechanism to get there that we're trying to do. On this one, I hadn't considered, potentially a resolution, because I do think there are mechanisms to get to what you're trying to achieve. And I am in agreement of, should that be on the ballot in this process as well as, the other items? I'm just not there yet. Because again, for me, the threshold, for me to vote in favor of anything is so high that I think that there may be some other avenues, and I'm mulling over, what would it look like, to, take this and put it in a resolution to our commissioners to say, hey, we think that this is a good idea. I know OPAGA, they're now mandated to do a study, on these proposed, tax items. So, I think there may be other avenues, I think, to achieve, what's trying to be accomplished here. So
Okay.
those are my thoughts.
Let's drill into that, Mary Helen. Right now, a financial impact statement is being prepared.
Yes.
Great. You have issues with what's being prepared. Is that where we're going on this? What's the process of that financial statement being prepared? Who does it? What parameters do they operate under? How are they appointed? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, it is set out by ordinance, and when we have a proposal that fits the requirement of having the financial impact statement, then we have the county budget person that's designated will do a committee with expertise, and whether it's a transportation tax or sales tax or whatever kind of tax it is, to get the people with expertise on the committee, and they come up with the financial impact statement. And I did want to say, just make a quick comment that it has happened numerous times that the Charter Review Board did not want to take an issue to fruition, but they did a resolution to the Board of County Commissioners saying, this is what we discussed. We didn't want to put it on the ballot, but we would like you. And the board has, I think, almost always taken that under advisement. And the board has done the same, recommending things to the board, the Charter Review Board. So it goes back and forth. So that's an option if that's
Right.
somewhere that you want to
So
go and
is
let the
it-
board
is it-
decide.
So is it kind of boiling down to, we have a process to prepare a financial impact statement, but you would like that process expanded in a couple of areas? Am I correct?
You're correct, but I think there's an outstanding issue here because currently our county charter limits the financial impact statement to less than 75 words and include a 2-year estimate. So it doesn't specify the household costs.
I see.
And it doesn't prescribe, evaluating the revenue over the entire term.
Yeah, okay. Would you comment on it?
Well, the only thing I was going to comment on is the way Muni Code, and that is the service that most municipalities and counties use to codify all their ordinances. When this happens, then that's why we have the note that follows that says, because of judicial action outside of the normal charter process, it can't be on the ballot. So I'm comfortable legally speaking. Now, if you want to amend that provision to take that language out, you can. But to those that are, you know, it says right there that, and that's the only piece, it's like 8 words, that you just can't put it on the ballot immediately following the ballot language.
Okay. So we've got pieces that we specify in our charter, like the 2-year estimate, and you don't want it limited just to 2 years. Your point is there's a bunch of additional information that you believe personally
Yeah.
would be helpful to someone researching this ballot issue, correct?
Right, especially when it's being when it's, for the example I said before, when it's being said it's a $9 billion tax when it's a $16 billion
Yeah,
tax.
that's like
Yeah.
a lifetime estimate
Yeah.
versus a 1 or 2 year.
Right, when you buy a car, you want to know, what am I going to pay when when you buy a house, they tell you when you sign the agreement, how much in interest and everything else you're going to pay up front.
Yeah.
So that you're,
Yeah.
informed consent. And that's all I'm asking is for informed consent for the voters.
Yeah,
And one other thing I'd like to add regarding what's in it, if you look at the example 2 I had in the notes, I put the ballot question there. It says, should transportation improvements be funded by, blah, 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 to build and widen roads, fix roads and bridges, expand public transit, fix potholes, expand bus service, improve, so that's where I was saying the ballot language itself tells you the benefits of the tax. I'm just looking for somewhere a credible source of information to say, okay, we know what the benefits are. Now, what are the costs? That's it. So I'm in agreement that we need to know the benefits and the costs, but right now we don't have a credible source of those costs. And I'm suggesting that we amend the outdated charter language, and so that's where I'm coming from. I just would like to have a credible source of information readily available. The other thing about the OPAGA audit does not give you that financial information. They are just auditing, hey, has this entity that is receiving the funds, are they capable of having the internal financial controls in order, and are they able to procure, within the certain codes that is required when you take tax money and spend it. And you will find nowhere in any of those OPAGA audits what the projected revenues collected over the term of the loan is. So,
I have another quick question.
yeah,
Did you want to
Beth,
go
Ms.
first?
Latham?
Okay. We cannot put anything beyond that 2-year computation on the website? Or are we bound by just this 2-year because it's in the charter as to what we could put on the website of our own volition? Not we, as in the county.
The county could do more than what's minimally
There.
required.
Yeah, I think that, and then we would do a resolution, and we would send it to the board, and they would say, okay, yeah, we can put that additional information that
Correct.
Karen thinks we should put on there, or all of us think we
That's
should put
correct.
on there. So we can accomplish that. And Jim, this is not going to the ballot. We can't do that, just for clarity on this issue that Karen has brought forward.
sure.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure there was some clarity on that.
What about the 75 words? Are we able to accomplish everything that we presently see within 75 words, or does that need to be 100, 150 or something?
The number of words, if it's not on the ballot, so the number of words can be whatever you
Oh,
want, or
okay,
whatever you
okay.
suggest to the board.
Well, it says
County
a separate
committee, that's
financial
where
impact
it's-
statement not exceeding 75 words. I just worry that what Mr. Jarosh is suggesting
Yeah.
ends up being 76 words,
No, we could,
No.
if it's not
And
on
we
the
can't do
ballot-
it, yeah.
And that's why the 75 words came from, because it was on the ballot.
And I
And
think,
ballot questions are limited to 75 words and 15 words in the title.
the county puts the project lists, et cetera, on the website now. So they can be linked.
Right.
for the cost and benefit part of it.
Right.
I mean, when we've done stuff like that.
Ms. Holt?
That's why I think the resolution works, because we can
Yes.
basically say what the discussion is, we can say what it is that what we're trying to accomplish, and really include that part that we want to make sure that all the information is easily accessible in the same exact location for the public. I mean, we want them to know the positives and the negatives of everything. We want the whole picture, but we want it all in one place, because there is a list of projects that are included, so I know
And you can do
that.
it by area. I mean, the technology is very sophisticated.
You just have to be savvy sometimes and keep looking in different places, and what you're trying to do is make it simple, easily accessible, and I think we can do this through a resolution. And my feel from everybody that was here last time was that they had no problem with the format that was being
Proposed.
That was my take.
The only problem I have with it, I'm speaking as an individual and as chair, but of course, I'm not an expert on financial disclosure. I mean, I don't know if any of you are. I mean, if you worked in a Wall Street firm that, does those great big long prospectus items you see, I mean, what you're saying kind of makes sense, but maybe it doesn't, because I don't know what I don't know, So I'm a little nervous about going down that route of a resolution, although I can see how that we could accomplish it, because I'm not sure if we have the expertise to know if those are the right things, or there should be other or different.
Right,
But
well,
I think it would be an easy question to ask for the budget person that's assigned to do this. I think it would be easy for them to say yes or no, and maybe what parameters they think are more appropriate if they wanted to give us input.
And even if longer than that is reasonable to project to.
I think that would be a good,
well,
of course, if they really liked something, like, they would have already done it.
Well, if that's the sense that the board wants, the committee here wants to go, I just feel like our purpose as a citizen charter review board is that we have a once every 5-year opportunity to do things outside of the commission. And if all we're doing is making suggestions to the county commissioners, I think we're missing the opportunity that our charter gives us, and that is, hey, if we want something to happen, sometimes, it might not, term limits. Who would want term limits on the, that's never going to happen if the, well, I won't say that. I didn't mean to go there. I'm not trying to suggest that
No.
anybody on our current
No,
board
yeah.
would not want term limits.
You're muddying things up here, quick.
I'd like
But
to
we all
speak to
know
that.
Back away, quick.
Yeah, so I'm just saying that's the opportunity. And again, if the sense is that we want to do a resolution, I will go along with it. I'm not going to, fight that. But, it would be my hope that we would want to correct what's currently been struck down by the courts on the charter, clean it up, and while we have that opportunity, add, and I don't think you have to be an expert. You have to be an expert at voting. How do I make a decision? I want to know, when you buy a car, you're not an expert, but there is a way to amortize those costs. We have all the, you can guess the inflation rate, the population, they do it all the time. The rate, the history, the population from, sources that the state provides. They do long-term forecasting. The MPO does that as well. So I think we have all the ingredients to put it all together without, and it would be in a very unbiased way. This is the tax rate, this is the term, you can amortize it, it's a simple formula, and then, yes, let the budget committee be the ones to say, well, this certain thing would be taken out because tourists pay that part of the sales tax, so the household costs. I think there can be some reasonable estimates done by the county staff and come up with something that I think the public could use in their
But
decision-making.
for clarity, you'll support the resolution. You're just talking about what actually goes on and how it gets configured onto the website.
I would like to have a vote on my proposal first, and then if it fails, I would support a resolution, I guess is where I'm going.
Ms. Holt?
Let me
And I
ask
was-
one
I
more
was-
question.
I was thinking of making a motion for the resolution part of it, to be honest with you. That's kind of where I'm leaning. I understand what you're saying. I just think that probably there's meatier things that I think could end up on the ballot that will probably mean more. Then, that I understand what you're trying to do in fixing the language, but I think that we can suggest some things through the resolution. And in reading all the reports that we've had the opportunity to read, it seems like the board does take the resolutions pretty seriously and seems to take an interest in them. And so I was leaning towards making that motion tonight.
And I was leaning towards seconding it.
And I don't mean to stop the conversation with you and with the attorneys or the budget person. The motion would include that part of it to make sure that you're comfortable with what's being developed for a final action, I guess, at the next meeting.
Well, I would be open to tabling this idea maybe till September, and we should have a better sense of where we are on some of the bigger issues. And then if,
Why September? I'm not sure why
I'm just saying 3
waiting.
months, I was adding 3 months down the
Oh.
line. I mean, our authority ends, I believe, in January of next year.
Yeah.
So giving us time, if we needed it, to bring it back as an agenda item. We could still vote on the resolution in September, if that's the sense, and just revisit the issue and see, have we done some of the big items that I think many of us here would like to see and hope to see maybe.
I have a quick question for Mary.
I want to recognize Ms. Carlton. Go ahead, please, speak.
Thanks, I appreciate it. I just wanted to clarify, if we're talking about a resolution, are we going to be including that idea that there's a balance, that there's, this is what it's going to cost over this period of time, as well as information about what the benefits are? I wasn't sure where we were on that part of it.
Yes.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to ask Mary Helen a question. Okay, Mary Helen, if we were to simply play with the language as you like, and we put it on the ballot, notwithstanding we know that the Supreme Court has already made this ruling, and what if the electorate said, yeah, we don't want to have to listen to the Supreme Court, and we're going to pass this? It makes no difference. It means nothing because the Supreme Court. Right. So it's an exercise in futility. That's my point. We can't. The Supreme Court has said, period. It's done. So even if we did it, beyond that, it means nothing. In fact, it would cause probably an issue. Yeah. That was my
Just to be
point.
clear, I was not suggesting, I'm suggesting we take off the phrase that says, put it on the ballot.
Just editing. And what happens if they said no? I mean, that's the other side of that argument.
Well,
It's just-
then we're in
it's
the
just
status quo that
exercise
we
in
are right
futility.
now. Nothing changes.
But she's saying you can put a note in like they've done in other places. And so
Right, well, that's
there's
what we are
clarity
doing.
that
Yeah.
we have. So we
Right.
don't need it. It's just an exercise in futility. I think. That's the way I look at it.
Let me see if we can get our arms around it
But
this
you
way.
can still do the stuff on the website and make that and add the balance and all that kind of thing.
Let me ask, is there a template, let me call it, I'll define what I mean, right now for the budget office to use to prepare a financial impact statement? I mean, is there things they say, we're going to disclose X, Y, Z, and B, and A, and 1, 2, 3? Is there a template?
I am not sure. I don't know that level of detail, but we can
Okay.
certainly find out. And I think if you want to ask the board, it might be helpful in the resolution to put all your ideas in there so that they don't have to come up with something. They know exactly what this board
Well, that's what I
wanted.
was wondering. If there were, and I suspect they have a template,
They probably do.
they probably do. And then your issue is that certain items are not in that template. So
Right.
the way
My
we
issue-
could, the way we could approach this is with the resolution that says that template will be modified to include this, this, and that. And is that an approach? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it could be an approach. We could do the resolution. If we want to do that resolution today, that's fine. I still would like to revisit this if we don't have any other changes, because I think it is something worth putting on the charter.
Any other changes to what?
I think it is worth, I'm saying if we don't have any other charter amendments.
Oh.
Yeah, if we go
Oh.
through the next 3 months and we don't produce
Oh.
anything that, I think this is something that we could revisit.
So I think we've got a course here. I think would like the Budget Office to work with us on including some of the specific items and others they might think of in a template so we can count on more disclosure every time a financial impact statement is developed, all right? So we can meet, maybe the Budget Office personnel could come next month and explain the process to us, and then you can itemize what you think should be included, and if we all agree, that will become a resolution as to how they modify their template. Is that okay?
Yeah, again, I'm okay with the resolution, but, you know, in the end, it would be subject to change by the county commission at any time if it's an
Sure.
ordinance.
Yeah.
And I just think that the voters in Hillsborough County deserve a little bit more. They deserve to have certainty that they will know what the costs are in an unbiased, predetermined way. But I'm also happy to meet with the budget director in the interim as well.
Oh, super.
Yeah.
That would enhance it even better, so there's better communication, yeah.
Because I could be missing something big, and that would be good to know.
But I'm going this way with an understanding that we could revisit this as a charter amendment later. We could. But the route we're going to take is a resolution. Would somebody like to try to put that into a motion?
I think Julie should.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. All right, at this time, I would move that we create a resolution that is subject, however, to Ms. Jarosh and our attorney meeting with the budget people first so that they can come up with a template that would capture everything that is an example one in terms of the chart, which starts with current rate and then ends with effective date, so that all those items would be captured. And that also included would be the benefits of the particular item that is being analyzed through the fiscal impact statement.
Okay.
And with balance, add in.
Well, that's why I said with both of them.
Okay.
That's the balance.
And we'll also talk about if that can be located in a place that's easier for a voter to access it. I think it was a big point with you, right?
I agree, and that the resolution include that the recommendation of the Charter Review Board is that fiscal impact statements, project list, cost benefits, and whatever the project list is, that everything be in one particular location, which is easily accessible to the public.
Okay.
And I think once you start to create the resolution, I think, you know, what we're obviously trying to do is not have to click 100 times to get anywhere. Just, that's what the, so all your fiscal things would be included in this, Mr. Roche, that you're talking about. And of course, I understand that the motion I'm making today is subject to the budget individual indicating that these are appropriate.
Yeah.
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Does everyone understand the motion? Any further discussion?
Could I just
Ms.
make-
Roche?
Yeah, I'm going to support the motion, and I think if we do send the resolution next meeting, given 2 or 3 months, we can see how it's perceived, and then maybe if we could bring it back.
Yeah, I'm
by
open.
October.
We're open to that.
Yeah, if,
We understand.
yeah.
It's on the record.
right.
I mean,
We're being recorded.
I mean, I think my assumption is that they're going to bring back a resolution to us that we'll talk about, and at that time, I think it's up to the chair to make a determination perhaps when that might be forwarded to the board, and so my understanding is it's going to be held in advance until September.
Agreed, but what I was talking about is we can make a resolution and a suggestion, but it doesn't have to be taken up by the
Oh, right.
board. And so that's what I'm saying. We can
correct.
see how the board reacts to it and may or may not change it or implement it, and then maybe that, we can revisit at that point. But yes, I'll be supporting your resolution. Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion of the motion? How would you like to call the vote? Is it enough to just all in favor, or do we want a roll call? Or
I don't think we need to do it ad seriatim. I think you can do it as a group.
Okay.
It
so-
might get more important when we're actually doing the final vote on a charter change.
Yeah, we'll go by
To
name.
make sure that the record
Okay.
is clear.
Fine, thank you for the advice.
I'm
All right, then
sorry,
I'll-
Mr.
I'll-
Chair.
Any further discussion? Yes, sir?
Yes.
Oh, yes,
If
sir.
there's any no votes, I'll need them announced on record.
Yes, that's right. You mentioned that once before. Thank you for reminding me.
Yes. And who was the second for the motion?
I was.
Ms.
Beth
Latham?
All right, thank you.
Okay, got it all covered. All right, here we go. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Like sign.
That's Sue.
Okay, I can see you on my screen now. So Dr. Collins, you're are you
That was an
in favor?
aye.
That was an aye. Thank you. Okay, we got everybody voting. Thank you very much. We'll move on now. The next item was Section 4.10. This was also brought up by Mr. Jarosh, and she and I talked about it, and basically, I think your intent was to make sure that it was out there, and if anybody had anything they wanted to talk about, it would be brought up. So this is that, am I reading you correctly?
Yeah, I flagged it, you know, with all the talk about government efficiency and, you know, and again, it was nothing, I have not spent any amount of time looking at the current county attorney, internal auditor. It wasn't, you know, to indict anyone or anything like that. It was more of, hey, do we have an opportunity at this juncture in the charter to add that in? I think what I've seen is maybe they're doing some things at the state level, maybe the county commission has been doing some things, and at this point, I don't feel the need to move it forward, nor obviously it was noticed and no one from the public is here. So I am certainly, you know, okay to just let it drop at this point.
Yeah, so it's on the floor. Does anyone have any issues with 4.10? I know Mr. White was instrumental in drafting this a few sessions ago, so I'm sure he still loves it. Yeah. Anyone else? Then we'll conclude, we'll move through that item. What I wanted to do now is talk about Article 4, and I just would like to have a discussion as long as we want to take the time. We are going to try to tackle, beginning next month, changes in the composition of the county commission. And as I see it, and I'll ask, this is just an open preliminary discussion, we've got two routes here. One is to go to district seating for across the board for everybody that's a commissioner. And of course, there's a question of how many, 7 or 9 or maybe even as 5, who knows? I mean, but district seats, or some variation on what we have now, which would be instead of 7 commissioners, maybe going to 9 and having one more in each of the 2 categories. So I just kick it up and bring the discussion to that. Is that our 2 choices? Is that the dichotomy that we have? Does everyone agree, or is there a third option out there for us to look at?
And to clarify.
Mr. Taylor?
Yeah, and you're just saying we either look at single-member districts or a variation of a couple of single-member still at-larges.
Yes, sir.
However that
Yes, sir.
variation would look.
I think that's the 2 issues, the 2 options we have. I just was
Well,
probing.
we have 9, we could have 11, we could have 7,
Sure,
those kind of things.
that's kind of, exactly.
Yeah, I know.
Well, once we
I
wade,
just-
once we wade into it,
Yeah.
but I want to try to guide you through the choices, because we'll probably begin picking one choice, maybe the at-large, everybody being at-large, everybody being in a district, and just chew on that for a while until we reach a conclusion that we're going to go that way or we're not, you know.
You mean
so.
everybody being in a single member?
Yeah,
not
single-member
at-large.
district, I'm sorry,
Okay.
correct,
Right.
single-member district, yeah. So I think we'll probably chew on that for a while, and then we'll go for a vote and see if that's what the group wants to do. And if not, then we'll close that and go to the other option, which is either what we got now or some variation on what we got now. So that's how I was going to approach the issue, yeah. Any other thoughts on how do you all feel about it? Is anybody, I just got to do it one way, I got to do it the other way? Has anybody got anybody frozen, locked down?
I don't mind kicking it off. I'm not
Go
a
ahead.
fan, I'm not a fan of single-member districts totally.
Okay.
I'm not a fan of that for a multitude of reasons, however. But I'll save all that for later on, but I'll gladly listen to everybody. I'm not one of these rabid individuals, but having watched for years and years and years, I just feel that there is a benefit to countywide commissioners. And I love being able to call multiple people when I perhaps might need something.
Thank you. I'm going to recognize the two folks we have on the screen, and I'll move to some of the folks here. Dr. Collins?
Yes, I was going to say that my focus and my interest was when listening to the population data that we requested. I was thinking that we would try to focus more on a commissioner per X number of people in the population. However, my focus is, and I do believe in single-member district, I wanted to maintain a single-member district, particularly with what I think would be good to make sure that we have great representation. So I like single-member district. I'd like to keep that, but I think we need to increase the total number of Board of County Commissioners based on the population so that we'll have greater coverage. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Carlton?
I just would echo everything that Ms. Holt just said. I am not in favor of single-member districts. I think the system where, you've got a combination where every citizen can vote for a majority of the commission is a really good idea. And but I'm happy to listen, and the idea of expanding the commission, given the size of the county and the issues of South County maybe not being as covered in the current setup, expanding, I'm interested in listening to that as well. But no, single-member districts are not going to be for me.
Thank you. Mr. Taylor.
Go ahead, Jen.
Okay. I definitely value the fact as a voter, I get to vote for the majority of my county commissioners. I think that's a good thing. I think there's so much wisdom in that. Our county population allowed for us to do that, to be, I think, a good representative to do that. Now with our growth, the size of our county, I do look at countywide, and just a big county, area, population, and, I have the hindsight of having used to work for a county commissioner, both as a district and as a countywide. And it's a big apple to bite off of. And, again, you look at where the trends are, where the growth is, and what is best for our county and my young boys who will, continue to grow up in Hillsborough. They better not leave. And so looking at other counties that have gone single member, how that has played out, how that works to govern, how that works to, make sure that they are being good stewards and representative of their constituency. And so if we do, I think we're a little too big to do, a 4-3. So if we, I like that, because again, coming back to you get to vote for the majority of your commissioners. But if we do go consider let's just say we stay at 7 members for the time being, but we go to 5 district and 2 at-larges, or some variation of that. Let's say we vote to go up to 9 commissioners and 7 district, 2 at-larges. I guess that's where, and I would love input, that's where I'm curious as what the benefit of those particular at-large commissioners would have. Because if we're going to potentially pivot away from the 4-3 and consider single-member districts, I'm then looking at, all right, then what is the value we have for at-large? And I'm, and that's where I struggle. But I do think we're big, we're growing, we're not going to stop growing. I think that is a good problem, being that I'm born and raised right here. I love it that people are moving here, but I do think we're at a place where we've got to pivot, and we've got to look at making sure that it's not too big to represent.
Thank you.
My turn?
Ms. Latham?
I have some more practical questions. I get the single member too. I like trying to blend it a little bit if everyone thought so, but I'm definitely, if we can't get there, going to stick with single member. I think that's where I'll land. I know that's where I'll land. But what I'm really curious about, particularly when we talk about what that would look like, is, Mary Helen, can we get some costs associated with this?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, we'll definitely go into
Okay,
that.
because
I'm
I
just
think they
throwing out
are
a
going
bunch
to
of
be
feelers
significant.
at this
And
meeting
where
right
do you
here.
put 9 people?
Yeah.
You know, where do you put their staff? And what does that do to the budget? Is everybody going to still have 2 aides each? Or if they're all 9, I'm going to say 9 single member, what happens to the extra aides? They all have 2 now, as you know, Jim. So I think we need to really take a hard look at that, and that's construction costs, that's relocations. Do we boot everybody off the 26 and put the commissioners up there? You know, there are all kinds of ideas. And you know. So I really think that a good financial analysis of that is in order.
I agree. Yeah, we all agree on it. Yes, Ms. Roche?
Yeah, so I did look at some of the other counties
Oh,
and
good.
how they are looked at, and of course, if the county, you know, if you want to have a more extensive list, maybe we can have the county do it, but Broward County has 9 single-member districts, and they have a population of almost 2 million. So they have, per representative, they have 219,000 people. Currently, with our 4-3 in Hillsborough County at 1.5, our district commissioners have 380,000, almost double anybody else. And you look through, you know, Manatee County, they have a 5-2, and they're single member, they have 5 districts, so they're 85,000 per single district commissioner. If you look at probably one you don't want to do, and that would be Duval County, they have 19 districts, so yeah, I'd like to see where their staff is housed. And that does bring them down to 73,000, which is, I love, because I think putting, you know, the people closer to the commissioners is always a good thing. Miami-Dade.
That's a consolidated government.
What's that?
That's also a consolidated city.
Yeah,
county,
it's also
so
consolidated, yeah.
That's why
which
they're unique.
I don't know much about, and I know Ms. Holt will probably bring some of these things out, so I would like to learn. Miami-Dade, same way, they have 13, and it is a consolidated. Pinellas, they have a 4-3. They have almost 1 million, so it's roughly 245,000 per. So, you know, it is interesting. Volusia County, they have a 5-2. They have 600,000 population. It's roughly 116,000. But I think it's unsustainable at 378,000 per district county commissioner. That's much bigger than most of any other county, a lot of the counties in Florida. And geography-wise, I think there's 11 states smaller than just the boundaries of Hillsborough County. I could be wrong by 1 or 2 states, but so, you know, campaigning and representing, you know, how can that really happen, you know, with very costly, talk about costs, you'd have to be someone who has access to a lot of money in order to run, you know, an area larger than most senators in the U.S. Senate. So I'm just saying, you know, to get the benefit, the other added benefit of going single-member district is you have built-in term limits. Currently, we don't have that, and there is the loophole, you know, where you can bounce from district-wide to single-member, or to county-wide. So I originally, I think at the second meeting, mentioned that I was looking, you know, at a sliding scale going up. You know, rethinking that, I don't know any more than 9. I think after that it gets manageable. So I would be open to considering 7 or 9 at this point. I'm not a fan of any county-wides for the purposes I stated, the geography and the term limit aspect I really like. So that's where I'm at.
Oh, thank you. Ms. Droege?
I think for me, one of the issues that I'd like to focus on is this ability to hop between districts. And so effectively, there are no term limits on commissioners. District 4 is, I'm in District 4, so I can appreciate how large District 4 is. It extends from one county line to the other county line. So District 4, in my opinion, should be split because there is so much population in District 4 now, particularly in South County. So those are some issues I'd like to look at, and I'm kind of torn between single member and a mix. I see the benefits of both. I know that I have been a proponent of single. I'm still leaning that way, primarily because we could limit. But I do see some benefit to the voters being able to elect the majority of the Board of County Commissioners and having somewhere to turn to if you don't like your own commissioner, or you don't feel they're responsive. The other thing is that I'm not sure if 7 or 9 or 8 or, 7 or 9 is the right number, but one thing's for sure, I mean, I'm sensitive to how much money we are adding to the county budget, and because it's overblown as it is. And I think that I would really have to see some detailed cost analysis that would make me feel comfortable increasing it to 9, because there's a lot of stuff that comes along with increasing it to 9 members. So that's kind of where I'm falling on it, but I'm willing to listen to every and all input. But I do think it's an important part of the charter that has to be looked at.
Thank you. Mr. Coons?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm also in favor of single member, also with whoever said that. I don't know who everybody's position, but and Mr. Roche was correct. There are 11 governors that receive less votes to be governor of their state than our county commissioners, with 1.5, 1.6 million. And there just seems to be a great benefit of having your representative close by and not far away. So, and I also think of it from the representative's point of view, wherever they live, they're an hour drive from a lot of their places and being involved. I know the mantra, I've heard it several times now, well, you get to vote for half of your representatives, but they're really not representing you. If there's that many people, they can't do all of that. So I like slicing it up, getting it smaller, getting it closer to home, letting that be the guiding principle so that we actually have representation. And the cost is a big factor, but we keep growing. I mean, it's somewhere you can't keep the same number and keep adding people and then not expand our base as well. So I'll be interested to see how this all plays out. I would be interested to hear what the benefits of a countywide, except for having another person to call, the benefits of having countywide people, representatives.
Ms. Holden and Ms. Latham.
Sure. Yeah, I just to say, I will tell you one of the benefits that I see in this is that you have to work for the betterment of the entire county and not just your own individual district. And in watching other places where I've had the opportunity to watch and listening to the fight over the dollar for my district versus your district versus having that person who is forced and obligated to look at the big picture as opposed to just their own one single area. And sometimes, there's also a protection to some extent for a commissioner when they are in that position because they did what was best for the entire community. I can just imagine being at the grocery store and reminding you of every single vote that I asked you, my single member district, to make, and where you were on the losing side consistently because of whatever the infighting was. So the benefit is forcing people to look big picture. And if you think about what we've been doing here since day one, day one we all probably had this great thing that we were going to make this charter, we're going to make 500 changes. And we've all come together to realize there's greater good. There's a better picture. And, just watching Mr. Roche tonight, there's compromising that's happening. And that's a lot of what government is. I think it's efficient when you have people who have to think big picture across the board. from a budgetary standpoint, from where monies go, from every single thing that they have to do. Do I think it's a big county? I ran county-wide, so I can tell you, yes, it is. I'm sometimes concerned about the ability for somebody to fundraise, but when you've seen some of the folks that have actually been voted into office that did not raise funds whatsoever, really didn't do a whole lot, you know, out there, and were able to be successful because of other things in play. So for me, that's why all single-member districts just would not work, would not work. When you're forced into a system that makes you look at everybody's interest, and I understand, and I'm not a term limits fan right now because I've been in Tallahassee. So I understand the jumping around, but, you know, with the exception of a handful of people that have been able to get elected multiple times, and you know, a Jan Platt, you know, a Ken Hagan. I understand what we're talking about, but the historical aspects of what Jan Platt brought to the Board of County Commission was tremendous, And, you know, sometimes we lose that in our efforts to try and shift to, I just don't want this person in office anymore. You've got to let elections kind of take care of those things at the end of the day. But the historical knowledge, this legislative session, if it hasn't taught me anything, it's taught me historical knowledge, commitment to the big picture. Those are important things.
They are.
Those are super important things. And so, and I understand how, you know, it would be great to probably go up to 9, but I would probably still land in 1 in each category. I probably would land there. The fiscal impact of it is of concern because there is a process in place right now that says if you're a commissioner, you get 2 aides, you get this, I get it. But if we're going to reduce the representation pool, there's probably no other choice other than something like that. I am extremely interested in hearing from the commissioners that are willing to come and talk to all of us as a group. And I think it's important that we figure out where they might fit in our calendar, because I know, for instance, the commissioner that appointed me has some conflicts over the next couple of months. And I will tell you that it's going to be very important for me to hear what is publicly said, because that's what the public, I'm considering myself a member of the public. I want to hear what the public is going to hear about where we are, where we should head, and why we should head in that direction. That's kind of where I'm leaning.
Thank you. Ms. Latham and then Mr. Taylor. Ms. Latham?
I have a question just for Mary Helen.
Sure.
You know, when you always did the redistricting piece for us, right? And a lot of that is based geographically, where you're trying to hit the numbers at the Justice
One
Department.
person,
Will you
one
talk
vote.
about that just a little bit here for these guys? But we're going to need to really understand the
That's the-
importance of that.
Correct, and that is, and the chair hit on the first of all, do we need to change? Second of all, is it gonna be all single member or mixed? And third of all, how many? I mean, those are the thresholds.
Right.
But you're gonna have to, for instance, if there's a proposal that's on the ballot in '26, then the first elections under the new structure would be in '28. So we have to, and I have the information, and I'll bring it to the board when it's appropriate, as to what districts it might impact, because somebody's going to be in the middle of their district, they wouldn't have to run until 30, but because we changed, they have to run in 28. As far as redistricting, the only time it's mentioned in the charter now is because of the census. Because once you do the census, there's different numbers, and to do one person, one vote, you need to have an equal population as you can. There's a 10% safe harbor, if you will, that you can deviate, because District 3 is going to be smaller than District 4 population-wise. But we take all those things. So you're going to need to address, unless you want to ask the board to do it, if this is successful, how do you want the first redistricting? And then you'll do it again
In a couple of years.
in a couple of years because of the census. So just, but there's a lot of considerations that I'm happy to bring to the board so that you get the whole picture and what you need to do, and that's going to add to the cost. The redistricting, I've done 3, and it's a heavy lift. The charter only gives us 120 days. We can't do anything till we get the numbers, typically in March. In 2020, it was April because of COVID. It might have been even May, I can't remember. But that process is going to need to be dealt with. And these are just considerations, but I can be prepared at the next meeting to kind of go over those so you have a context of, if we do this, we got to remember, we got to consider this, this, and this, so that it can be a whole conversation.
And one follow-up, are you saying we're going to potentially have to do a couple of amendments to make sure we capture everything throughout the charter?
Well, I'll look into it more, but I think we can leave the redistricting that's tied to the census like it is.
Okay,
I mean,
good.
there might be some changes. There are going to be changes all through the
Yeah,
charter.
right.
I don't think we need to mess with that. It's
Okay.
just for the initial new configuration,
implement.
we're going to have to redistrict.
Okay.
Mr. Taylor?
That gave me a
Then Mr.
headache.
Mr. Ogie?
Grateful for all the comments, and I'm, love hearing the perspectives of, where people see the value in the current makeup and the value in pivoting. I too, when I'm in Tallahassee, I'm all over the place in terms of how I view term limits. I have been very consistent on my inconsistency, but, in Tallahassee, I'm screaming for, at least extend term limits. I'm in DC, or when I'm in Tallahassee, I want that. When I'm in DC, I want term limits. You still got to run. You still got to get the votes. Still got to win at the end of the day. But again, the value I see in at large, I guess because we're so big now, I don't know if one individual, Congresswoman Castor, I think only represents 800,000 people. That's almost half of our population. And so again, what is, truly, an appropriate size? So again, that's where I come back to what is the value of at large if we're going to change the makeup of our board. We're at 1.5 million. I think there does need to be a change. And I do think that means going up to probably 9. And so if we don't do single member, if we do like a 7-2, what is the value of those 2 at larges? What are you gaining? That honestly, I think, others have said the value of having an at-large person now. I don't believe we would get that just based on the size of everything. I respect and understand, more commissioners, our current commissioners, I think, get paid $120,000. Their aides, 2 of them. Construction costs, but at the same time, every large county has had to adjust and kind of absorb that loss leader because of the greater reality of we're a large county and we're going to continue to grow. We got to make sure that that is manageable for our future representatives.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ogie.
Beth, did I understand that next meeting, we would have the demographic presentation? We went over the agenda before, but...
Yes, the Planning Commission is able to attend the next meeting with the demographic information.
Okay, and the demographics will that be the current demographics as well as projections of any kind?
I can check with them.
Because, one of the issues we're facing right now in our county, we keep talking about how it's growing, but right now, it's almost unlivable in Hillsborough County and in Florida because between the cost of housing, rent, insurance, et cetera, I know people that want to leave this state but can't because they can't sell their house. People don't want to come into this state because of, so I'm very interested in what are the actual numbers of the change of people coming in. I know we're building all over the place, but that doesn't mean those things are going to be occupied. And I think we might be overbuilding myself. But, in any case, I'd like to know that they're going to take a look at that because I think that's germane and relevant to the conversation.
Thank you. Mr. Osh?
Yeah, so we were looking at the whole Section 4. I think there are some discussions that kind of go along with the single-member district.
Sure.
One would be the term limits, as I mentioned, single-member districts would kind of build in that. If we were to go with the countywide, I definitely would want to strengthen the wording currently in the charter. I actually have some sample text on what I would like to see, so that you do kind of close that loophole where you can jump from district-wide to single-member. The other part, Section 406, has to do with reapportionment. We have seen explosive growth in District 4, the south part of the county. I think, so Section 406 talks about, every 10 years looking at the census. I think with the growth that we're seeing there, that and we have seen it, I know in the school board, I think there was, that was justification for, for when they did. I think they have a little bit more flexibility. I would almost like to build in or look at or consider, when it's predicted that your district is going to be 10% greater than another one, or whatever it is, 15%, whatever number we build in, that, and base it, you don't have a census, but every 10 years, Florida has a department that the state uses. It's called the University of Florida Bureau of Economic and Business Research, BEBR, and they do county populations. It's done. There's a government handbook that the OPAGA kind of puts together for the states, for the counties. That estimates it, because they need to know if there's a sales tax, how much you prorated, because some of the municipalities. So that data is readily available. So I think we need to look at the reapportionment.
I mean, you're saying something like a trigger
Yes.
that might come more often than once every 10 years.
Exactly. Thank you. That you said it much.
I
Yeah.
understand. Make sure you bring that up.
Yeah. And
Okay.
and then what were my other notes here? Well, just the other thing. Honestly, I think if the state legislature had a trigger on when to split a county, that could be helpful too. Just saying, but I don't think that'll ever happen. So.
Mr. Taylor?
You know, it would be a good resource, in addition to all that, is the Florida Association of Counties. Davin Suggs, not to put him on the spot, but that guy talk about wealth of knowledge and institutional knowledge of our counties. It might be a good resource to reach out to. I know Beth knows him as well.
You think of him as a speaker before us?
As a speaker,
Okay.
as information to say, hey, give us, some flavor behind these, comparable larger counties that, when did they change the makeup? What was the reason, rationale behind it? What were kind of some of the unintended consequences?
Mm-hmm.
If he can, I recognize he lives and based in Leon County, but to give us, some context behind, okay, well, why did that county go from, a mix to single member, or, whatever that may be? Because I also think that will be helpful to kind of see, what the other rationale behind those counties, and to kind of see, was there any unintended consequences, and how has that played out?
Can I ask Jim a question? Jim, is he able to address issues like population density? Because some of the counties you mentioned in your analysis have a completely different population density makeup than we do.
Yeah.
And I think we need to compare an apple to an apple and not an apple to an orange, so.
No, and again, back when I was the government relations director for this county, we would say all the time, Hillsborough is not Pinellas, is not Palm Beach, is not Duval. We all have our uniqueness. Hillsborough is unique in that we only have 3 cities. Predominantly, our county's unincorporated, and most people can only name one of our cities. No offense to our lovely Plant City and Temple Terrace. But then you go across the bridge where they're highly densed. They're going vertical with all their new builds, and they've got 22, 23 cities and towns. So it's different. The needs are different. The lines and everything would be different. And he definitely could highlight that. Again, I don't want to put him on the spot to say how deep he can go into it, but him and others, with the association, I think could definitely give us a good.
You say he lives in Leon County?
He's based in
So maybe when
Tallahassee.
you inquire as to his availability, you could see if he's any chance he's going to be in our area 1 month, 2 months from now, anything like that, yeah.
Or I mean,
I was going to say
Virtual.
Or
virtual is
virtual,
an
yeah.
option as well. Mhm.
Yeah, good, thank you, thank you. Was there something else, I'm sorry?
No, thank you for that, because this has always been one of my concerns, because one of our previous county commissioners brought up these comparisons with these other counties of how many residents should be assigned to each commissioner and why we should go to 9. But I had an issue with that because they were using counties that don't look like us at all. And I don't want to, I really want us to make sure we're doing the right comparison. So that's why I was hoping this person could shed some light on that.
Okay, well, you kind of led into what I want to close, the closing thoughts on, how do you want to get into that?
My hand is up. I didn't know if you saw it. I'm sorry.
Oh, Dr. Collins, I'm sorry, I was looking for your hand. I see it now. Thank you. Please go ahead
Okay,
and make
it's
your
all right.
remarks. Yeah.
Okay. What I just wanted to simply say, and I know it's almost consistent with what I said before, but because of what we've talked about with the census, how we actually draw these districts and the reality of gerrymandering, to make sure that they're economically analysis done, to take a look at, and I happen to be a person that understand, financially how expensive it could be, but I also know how expensive it is to have too many people trying to cover the community of the population, and it's not actually giving those residents in that area what they need. And so I would ask for, whenever we're going to come back and bring the information, I think I wrote a couple of reinforcing points that I wanted to make, and that is, we kind of try to make sure that we are looking at everything that we have said, whether it's term limits, whether it's single-member districts, if we're going to go with the larger county district, and whether we want to stop individuals from doing that or not. But if there are any best practices or traditional trends that are out there, we heard some analysis that was given, but I'd like to see it. And again, like you said, not per se Duval or Miami-Dade, because they did, consolidate and we didn't. All of those kind of things. I would like to hear that, because I want to hear it to be research-based and not emotional. And so whatever information we're going to have that come in, whoever's going to present us the information, and if it happened to be more than one, if it's UF and they have a research entity, if it's FAMU and they have a research entity because their research may have looked in a different direction, if it's University of West Florida because they might be considered a little bit rural or whatever. But I'd like for it to be somewhat research-based with the people that come in, and that we take a look at it and look at the pros and cons of it, advantages and disadvantages, to make sure that when we make this decision. But I will say, more county commissioners are needed. It may cost more. It may actually have to modify how many aides they have. But the issue is, we need to make sure that the people have the representation that they deserve and that they think they are actually paying for. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's close by getting some thoughts on how we're going to get into this. We will have a demographic presentation, and we'll kick that off. That won't be the only item on the agenda, unfortunately, because we'll want to, Commissioner Bowles is coming in. He'll talk about the fire department reporting. He also wants to talk about districts, but half of what he wants to do is the fire department reporting. And then we'll come back to the item of the resolution. If there's, we'll have somebody from the budget department giving us thoughts on that. So, and then after those two items, then we can get into this question of redistricting. So there'll be demographics. Is there something else specifically that we want to be brought forward? Again, Commissioner Bowles will speak on it. I think there's a consensus. Any commissioner that wants to speak will be invited to speak on this. But and maybe there's some others that we could let them know there'll be a forum for this next month. Yeah. But is there anything else that you want next month to start moving into this discussion? Demographics, commissioner report, anything else? Yeah. Yes, go ahead, Ms. Kodrogi.
Well, all of that background info that's all I think that's important to have that first and understand that, because that's going to guide that whole discussion
Sure.
and analysis of what are we really able to do and how much will it cost if we decide to make a change to the system we have now. I just know that District 4 is too big. I mean, it's just too big. And something has to be done with District 4 in particular. And it could be just, some way of redistricting. I'm not suggesting what the solution is, but it's just, it has to be dealt with. It's too big.
Okay. So maybe with a broad brush, we could talk about cost next month, too. Yeah, just, I don't mean down to Nat's eyebrow, you mean a broad brush. Yeah. Mr. Roche?
Yeah, there was one thing I meant to speak to, and that was
Yeah.
the comment on, the reapportionment may get tricky because somebody might be districted out, or the district might include two people that, I would discount that as an argument. I think we have to do what's right. Unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it, it will be the county commissioners making that apportionment call. So I have an idea that won't be as big as a problem, but I just wanted to throw that comment out there as well.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other thoughts about next month's meeting? Because we're getting close to wrapping this up. Anything? I want to thank Julianne Holt for the terrific job she did. I enjoyed watching the video. Yeah, so I was worried about my job here.
Chair, I do have one quick question.
Yes, sir.
Next meeting, the threshold to vote on, kidding, I have no question about that. That makes me laugh, not y'all, that's okay. I do want to real quick point out that my bud Sid Shaw has a very, very awesome birthday tomorrow.
Wow.
I will omit the number,
No, we don't want, yeah.
but his birthday is tomorrow, so I at least just want to publicly make him blush, but let him know. Happy
Sure.
birthday. We love you. Enjoy it. Have fun.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Jim. I'm flying to Colorado tomorrow morning, first flight out.
Oh, wow. That's a way to celebrate your birthday. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you schedule your flight so that you can make this meeting?
You say yes. That's what my kids asked me. I said, don't take me on the 10th, anytime after 10th.
Well, thank you for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
I'm committed to this.
Okay, thank you all very much. Have a wonderful evening. That concludes the meeting. Meeting adjourned.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Thank you.